Hello guys, so now we shall be discussing regarding the anterior and the posterior region of the neck. So first our topic of discussion would be the anterior region of the neck. Okay, so in the anterior region of the neck, the anterior region of the neck, the first topic which we shall be discussing is the anterior triangle. So we have got two important triangles, right? So one is called as an anterior triangle, another one is called as a posterior triangle. So what is this anterior triangle, and later we'll discuss what is a posterior triangle. So first of all, let me draw a picture and tell you what are the different triangles which you see in the anterior part of the neck. Okay, so all of you know that this muscle over here which you can see is called as your sternocleidomastoid muscle, right? Behind your sternocleidomastoid muscle, that is a posterior region of the neck, or called as a posterior triangle, and in front of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, this region whatever you can see is called as an anterior triangle. So sternocleidomastoid muscle, keep two things in mind. What are those two things which you keep in your mind is, this is the midline of your neck. Okay, this is the midline of your neck, and after that this is your sternocleidomastoid muscle. Between the midline and sternocleidomastoid muscle, this area which you have here is called as your anterior triangle. Behind the sternocleidomastoid muscle, this area which you have behind is called as a posterior triangle. So first let us discuss about anterior triangle. So how I'll draw is that in this particular view, if you look at the structures, how does the structures look? And adding upon that, I'll draw the triangle and all. You can see that this is your mandible, right? This is your mandible, and all of you know one very important thing, that just beneath your mandible you have got a bone like this. So this particular bone that is located in beneath your mandible is called as your hyoid bone. Okay, next beneath the hyoid bone you have got another important bone like this. So this cartilage over here is called as thyroid, and beneath the thyroid you have got what? Cricoid bone over here, right? So what are the important things? And by the way, not to forget that this part over here is your sternum, and attached to the sternum you have got the clavicle. This is your clavicle. Okay, and remember one thing, let me put all these pictures little bit nearer to each other. Right, so here you can see one very important thing, that this is the posterior part of your neck. Okay, so this part over here is your maxilla, and this is your mandible like this. So I hope you understood this picture, right? So in this particular picture, what are the different things you can see? All of you know one very important thing, that this region is called as a mastoid region. Okay, this region is called as a mastoid region, and this one is called as your sternum. This is called as your sternum, and this one is called as your clavicle. This is called as your clavicle. Okay, and what is this bone? This bone over here is called as your hyoid bone. Beneath the hyoid bone, this cartilage is called as your thyroid cartilage, and beneath that this is called as your cricoid. So now upon these structures, what are the important things we'll see? And you know, this is your mandible. I hope all of you know this, that this is your mandible. Now what did I tell you? I told you that take this as a midline, right? So this is the midline of your neck. So if this is a midline, so you see here now, this is the midline of your neck. Okay, now next important thing is that let us draw the muscles upon this. So what are the different kinds of muscles you have got? For example, all the way from the mastoid region, okay, all the way from the mastoid region down here, if you see, all the way from the mastoid region, right, down till the place where your clavicle and sternum are attached, right? So this particular muscle is called as sternocleidomastoid. What is sterno? It is the sternum, cleido in the sense clavicle, mastoid is the bone here. So it is attached to three parts: sternum, clavicle and mastoid bone. So that is why you call this muscle as sternocleidomastoid muscle. So this particular muscle which I will be shading right now, okay, so you see this particular muscle over here is called as your sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay, so this is your sternocleidomastoid muscle. Right. Now after this I will write down the names later on. After this sternocleidomastoid muscle, you have got next important muscle over here. What is this important muscle? So to discuss this important muscle, first of all you have to draw a hook like, let us say, a ring, okay, a cartilage, a fibrous ring, not cartilaginous ring, a fibrous ring on the surface of the hyoid bone. Now what I am drawing is that here you have got another muscle in this way. You see, it is all the way coming from the submental region. I mean, this is the mental region. Below the mental region, it is going all the way till the hyoid. You see, and in the hyoid, the next part of the muscle starts. And where is this muscle attached? This muscle is attached all the way back till your, you see, this muscle is attached all the way back to your mastoid. So this particular muscle which I have drawn right now, has got two bellies. What are the two bellies? You can very clearly see that this part over here, see, this one is called as an anterior belly and this is called as a posterior belly, right? So anterior belly and posterior belly are hooked up with the help of what? With the help of a fibrous ring. Where is this fibrous ring present? This fibrous ring is present on your hyoid bone, right? So this muscle has got two bellies and this is called as your digastric muscle. So this digastric muscle has got how many bellies? Two bellies. One is called as an anterior belly of digastric, another one is called as a posterior belly of digastric. After this digastric muscle, you have got the next muscle. This next muscle starts all the way from the inferior surface of the hyoid and comes and attaches to the sternocleidoid here. Okay, so this particular muscle which you can see, which is starting from the inferior surface of the hyoid and coming all the way down here, right? So this is called as your omohyoid muscle. What is the name of this muscle? The name of this muscle is omohyoid muscle. Now, so let me first write down the names of the muscles and then let us discuss the triangles over here. So what did I tell you? I told you that this particular muscle is called as your sternocleidomastoid muscle. So this particular muscle which you can see over here is called as your sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay. Now after this sternocleidomastoid muscle, you have got another muscle beneath the mandible. This is called as your digastric. Now out of these, what are the two bellies? This is called as a posterior belly of your digastric muscle. Next, this one is called as your anterior belly. Okay, and what is the name of this muscle? The name of this muscle is your digastric muscle. Next, what is this muscle over here? This muscle over here is called as your omohyoid muscle. Now because of these three muscles overall, you can see three important triangles, right? So let me shade these triangles. For example, you can see one triangle over here which I am shading right now, right? You can very clearly see one very important triangle which I am shading right now, right? So where is this triangle present? If I ask you the borders of this triangle, right? If I ask you the borders of this triangle, what will you tell? So first important thing you will tell is that this triangle, right, this triangle, one side there is posterior belly of digastric, one side there is sternocleidomastoid muscle, and on the other side there is the midline of the neck, right, or you can also call it as a omohyoid muscle. So this particular triangle which you can see over here is called as a carotid triangle. The borders I will write down there in detail, but for now I am just telling you the triangle. So this triangle over here which you can encounter, this is called as your carotid triangle. So this is your carotid triangle. Next, this is mandible. Beneath the mandible also you have got another triangle, right? So beneath the mandible, here you see a triangle over here. So where is this triangle located? This triangle is located here beneath your mandible. So the triangle that is located beneath your mandible is what is called as submandibular triangle. So this triangle is submandibular triangle. Okay. Now after the submandibular triangle, you also see one more triangle here. Where is this triangle located? This triangle is also located beneath the mandible, but precisely it is located beneath the anterior belly and above your hyoid bone, you see. It is located beneath your anterior belly above your hyoid bone. So this particular triangle over here is called as mental triangle. Okay. So what is this triangle? This triangle is called as mental, but it is beneath the mental process. So submental triangle. Submental triangle. So what are the three different triangles you can see over here? You can see one is called as a carotid triangle, another one is called as a submandibular triangle, another one is called as a submental triangle. And where are all these triangles present? These are the triangles of your anterior neck, or these are called as your anterior triangles. Okay. So overall, if I ask you where is anterior triangle located, right? So I'm drawing just one important line over here for you to understand. If I ask where is your anterior triangle located, can I tell like this? So this is one border, right? So let me use another sketch over here, right? So all of you just look here. I'll rub it later. This is one border of the triangle. This is another border of the triangle. This is the third border of the triangle. You see a triangle there, right? Now this triangle is nothing but called as your anterior triangle. Within the anterior triangle there are three small other triangles. Okay, but for overall what you need to know that these are the anterior. This is called as anterior triangle. Now if I ask anterior triangle borders, what will you tell? The first important thing you will tell is that this anterior triangle, actually I have to draw this triangle till here only, like this. So if I ask you anterior triangle is comprising of what? What are the borders of anterior triangle? Look here, the first thing is look at the superior border. Which is superior border over here? See, this border is called as a superior border. Superior border is having what? The mandible. Which part of the mandible? The upper surface of the mandible or the lower surface? The inferior border of the mandible. Okay. Now superior border is having the inferior surface of your mandible. Next, laterally and medially, what are the structures you have got? Laterally you have got what? Laterally you have got sternocleidomastoid muscle, right? And medially is this line. Medially what do you have got? Midline of the neck. Medially you have got the midline of the neck. Okay. So if little more detailedly if we talk, so exactly let me draw the triangle. Look here. This is one line. Okay. This is another line like this, and this is a third line. Now you will tell me precisely what are the borders of anterior triangle. So there are three borders. So this is called as a superior border, this is called as a medial border, and this is called as a lateral border. Superior border is having what? The inferior border of the inferior surface of the mandible is covering the superior, it becomes the superior border of your anterior triangle. Next, coming to sternocleidomastoid, within this sternocleidomastoid, you have got anterior part of the sternocleidomastoid and you have got the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. Now this blue color line I have drawn towards the anterior border or posterior border of sternocleidomastoid. I have drawn along the anterior border of sternocleidomastoid. Third is the midline of your neck. So these three things together form the anterior triangle. Okay, so let me write down these things. What are the things that form, what are the borders of the anterior triangle? Borders of the anterior triangle. We have got a superior border, we have got a lateral border, we have got a medial border. Okay. Now superiorly what do you have, laterally what do you have, and medially what do you have? Superiorly you have got the inferior border of mandible, inferior border of mandible. Laterally you have got the anterior border of sternocleidomastoid, SCM. Next, medially what do you have? Medially you have got the midline of the neck. Midline of the neck. Midline of the neck. Okay. So these are the three important things that are located over here. Now, these are the three important borders, right? Later on when we discuss about individual triangle, we will discuss what are the borders individually. Next important thing, look at this. You see, this is the midline of the neck. You see, this is the line that is drawn along the midline. See, this is the line that is drawn along the midline of the neck. And this is the line that is present here. This is called as the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. And this is the inferior surface of the mandible. So, together you see a triangle over here. This triangle is nothing but called as your anterior triangle. Clear? This is your anterior triangle. So, these are some of the important features which you need to know regarding the anterior triangle, and later on in the next videos we shall discuss about each and every triangle and its contents. Okay. So, this is all you need to know. Thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.